This is the Streamlined Piano Steps series. The pattern step number 7. And this is what I call Triad Families. So first of all, a triad, which you've done in working with the arpeggios. You were arpeggiating a triad. And so you already learned a triad was 3 notes built in thirds. So now what we're going to do is play blocked triads in root position. Root position means they're in this position where they're all stacked in thirds. And when they're like that, we name the triad by the bottom note. So if I put this C on the top, it's still a triad, but it's not in root position. I have a 4th here and a 3rd there. This is actually called an inversion, which we'll learn about in a different step. But what I found is if you can really internalize the major triads, and they're major because all 3 of those notes fall within the major pattern that you've already mastered, the note, whole, whole, half, whole, those first 5 notes of our major scale, then you know it is a major triad. And if you can internalize all of the major triads, it really makes for quick sight reading and learning and seeing larger patterns that helps you comprehend music just so much more quickly, and also to compose music, transpose music, improvise music. Triads are really the cells of music, and so to understand it on the cellular level is very helpful. But it can feel a little daunting to understand all the qualities of the triads. So we're going to start with the quality of major and master that first, and that will give us a foundation to then find minor and diminished and augmented very easily. But it's still daunting just to learn all the major triads, unless you find another pattern. So this pattern is that there's families, and every family has 3 triads. So let's explore those. And they're named according to their white and black key patterns. And I've just kind of used arbitrary names that are fun for children. So if you're an adult, I apologize. It's not very sophisticated. But we have the all-white family. So all white keys. C is in that family. F is in that family. G is in that family. So you could pause this video and see if you can remember those 3 and that they're all white. So this is trying to get you to the point where you don't have to note, whole, whole, half, whole every time you want to find a major triad. That you can just know it. Kind of like you go from having to sound out every letter in a word to just seeing the word and knowing it. So this is something to help you get to another deeper level of mastery. So after the all-white family, I teach the hamburgers. So we have the white bread on the outside and the dark patty meat in the middle. So there's another pattern that helps you remember these. D, and then the top note is the next one. A, top note is the next one. E. So they're 5ths apart. And they all have a black note in the middle. There's always a 5th on the outside of every triad. So pause the video, see if you can remember those 3 and practice doing them in one hand then the other. The next family are the Oreos, distant relatives of the hamburgers. Maybe it's because they're both food groups. And they have the same starting note except for it's flat. So instead of D, we have D flat. Instead of A, we have A flat. Instead of E, we have E flat. And it's the reverse. It's an Oreo, black on the outside, black cookie, white, cream-filled center. So D flat, A flat, E flat. So those all have a similar black and white pattern and feel to them. So the food groups, hamburgers and Oreos are all D-A-E, but the Oreos are D flat, A flat, E flat, and they're all 5ths apart. So that really helps to combine those. So pause and try those now. Last is the oddball group. And if we were actually looking at what they look like on the staff, drawn with notes and sharps and flats, There are various ways, I should say, to write these because of our enharmonic keys. You know, our scales, where 3 of those scales have 3 other scales that are the same notes on the piano, but they're written either with sharps or with flats. And so because of that, we also have multiple ways to write some of these triads, and we get most of those guys in the oddballs, but there's really 3 patterns only on the keys. And so I'm going to choose to call them G flat, B flat, B, just because it just kind of rolls off your tongue nicely, and having B flat and B, 2 B's, helps instead of, you know, naming this B flat and C flat. Anyway, so, and this could be F sharp, but I'm going to call it G flat. But just know that there are those equivalents, and I have a game that you can play, the triad slapjack and triad sorting, where you use the staff cards and images that will help you put your knowledge of the keyboard with your knowledge of the staff and match the 2. Okay, so the oddball group, one more time. G flat, it's all black. So it doesn't fit in any of the other families, right? And he's the only one that's all black. And then B flat is black, white, white. So there's no family with that pattern, and it's the only one that's black, white, white. And it's a flat, and then white, white. And then B, once again, is unique. So he's in that oddball group. There's no other triad that is white, black, black. And we get that from just a regular note, and then a sharp and a sharp, D sharp, F sharp. But like I said, this could also be C flat. So in that case, it's actually C flat, E flat, G flat. So there's going to be 3 flats on the staff, but we're just worried about what it looks like on the keyboard, because that's mostly what we're going to be using here. So again, G flat, E flat, B. So you know you have this mastered if you can say to yourself, all whites, and then quickly just play faster than you'd be able to count them out, the note hole, whole, half hole, to find them. And then if you just say hamburgers, and then Oreos, and then oddball. Another way, because you could just memorize that as a type of song and not really even realize what you're doing, another way to just check yourself is to, you know, make some flashcards or use your key signatures. You could, you know, whatever key that represents, you could do the triad instead of the scale picture, and just randomly pull out and say, okay, well, B major, you know, and then just randomly E major, or have a friend or a family member throw out a letter and have you see if you can quickly do it within 1 second. So that's the Triad Families.